What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Unhinged Talk. As usual, I'm your host, Patrick Hensey, joined tonight by the man, Brian DeGennaro. How we doing, Brian?
Fantastic, Pat. How's everything?
Can't complain, the usual. But before we do break down the Yankees starting rotation going into this year, everyone be sure, like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications. We're going live before and after every Yankees game this season, so stay tuned for that. And daily uploads every day at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, so stay tuned for that. But today what I want to do is preview the Yankees starting rotation, kind of give our predictions, our outlook on how the season's going to go. So I guess what we'll do is, to start out, we'll just break down every guy in the Yankees rotation, kind of what we're expecting out of them, and then we'll go over some over-unders and some of our own personal predictions going into the year. So obviously we'll start things off with Gerrit Cole. This is kind of the guy who I feel like has the least amount of question marks going into the season. I think Gerrit Cole is going to have possibly the best season of his career. And that might be a hot take. But yeah, I think Cole's going to be locked in this year. What do you think?
I dig it, man. I mean, yeah, I agree. He's definitely the only guy that doesn't really have that many question marks. And we kind of know what he's going to be, right?
Yeah.
We expect him to be a little bit better than last year. You know, maybe he was getting a little bit acclimated to New York. But you know, Cole, there's not much to say about him because he's just that good. That's why they gave him such a big contract.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see him. You know, every 5 days on schedule, ready to go, hyped up. You know, I'm excited, man. He's gonna be great.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. Especially based off of last season, which could be considered like a down year in Cole's eyes, which was
Right,
still a very
exactly.
good season.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this year he's going to be well acclimated in New York now, well acclimated with the division, the AL East, which I
Mm-hmm.
think has gotten weaker as well. And also, fans are going to be back in the crowd, hyping Gerrit Cole up for every start.
Yes,
So that's going to make a huge impact too.
for sure.
But second guy in the rotation I want to break down, Corey Kluber. First year in the Bronx. He hasn't pitched since 2019. I know he had like one inning in 2020, but we're not really going to count that. So I think Kluber's another one of those guys in the rotation where if he stays healthy, I think we're going to get good numbers out of him. He's a veteran guy. He's been through it all. He's pitched World Series Game 7. He's had some of the biggest moments of his career with Cleveland. But I think that maybe he could provide some of that big game energy to the Bronx. And trust me, I would love to see Corey Kluber in a postseason game in the Bronx. Much more than like a guy like James Paxton. That's not dissing James Paxton.
Sure.
That's just kind of like hyping up Corey Kluber in the sense of like we have a solidified number 2, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. And again, with Kluber, you know what you're going to get with him. It's really all about the injuries. If he can stay healthy, you're going to get a solid guy, solid number 2 right there.
Yeah.
And you know he's pitched great throughout his career. He's a veteran, which is good to have on this sort of younger team. And again, as long as he stays healthy, we should see a really great pitcher right there.
Yeah. Number 3, we're gonna go over Jameson Taillon. Another guy hasn't really pitched since 2019. Coming off Tommy John surgery, his second one of his career. He's been through a lot in his career. But I think that we could say that I know I mentioned Corey Kluber is the number 2 going into the season. By the end of the year, Jameson Taillon can solidify himself as the Yankees number 2. That's how much potential he has. And maybe I'm just being like so optimistic on all these guys going into this year, but I'm thinking Jameson Taillon's gonna have a really good year this year.
Yeah, I'm a big Tyone guy, and he's got the stuff to do it. Again, this a little bit to do with staying healthy and being consistent. And I like that the Yankees are kind of taking it slow with him. He's not going to start until I think the 6th game of the season.
Yeah.
They're skipping him the first way through the rotation, just to kind of like let him ramp up a little bit more, which is good. I think it's all about health for him as well. And if he stays healthy, he's got nasty stuff. So that he could definitely be the number 2. But imagine the number 2 of Tyone and then Kluber as your 3, Severino as your 4 when he comes back. That's
I know.
a nasty rotation.
I know. And the number 4 for the Yankees going to this year is a guy who has another one who has a tremendous amount of potential. That's Jordan Montgomery.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of articles too that kind of saying Jordan Montgomery even has the potential to be the Yankees number 2. And I think he might have had a little bit of a disappointing year last year due to like a few clunkers that really messed up his ERA. But I have high expectations for Montgomery too going into this year. I mean, he might be looking at one of the best seasons of his career going into this year. I think, like everyone else in the rotation, it really depends on health. Monty's been another guy who's kind of struggled with injuries since coming up in 2017. But yeah, I think that he's probably one of the best number fours in baseball. Like, it's kind of hard to argue that.
Yeah, for sure. No, like you said, injuries have really sucked for him. He had a lot of promise at the very start of his career, and then he's been riddled with some injuries, and really hasn't been able to build up to back to where he was. So it'd be great to see him get back there and hopefully progress a little bit this year, going forward. But he's another guy that has pretty good stuff. He's a lefty, which is nice to have in this rotation, a big lefty. And I'd really love to see him just stay healthy, get some consistency going, and see what he's got.
Yeah, as Power likes to say, he's Andy Pettit. There you go.
He's not Andy Pettit. Sorry.
So
Power.
the number 5 man in the rotations beginning the year is Domingo German. Another guy hasn't pitched since 2019. The Yankees have many guys that haven't pitched since 2019.
So many question marks.
He did beat out Deivi Garcia this spring for that final rotation spot. But before we do touch on Domingo, I just want to mention as far as Deivi Garcia goes, we're not going to break him down too much today just because he's not in the Yankees rotation to begin the year. But I think we're going to see plenty of Deivi Garcia throughout the year. Like we said, injuries are always bound to happen, as sad as it is to say. So I think Deivi can possibly make 15 to 20 starts this season. I definitely think it's possible. But Domingo German did get that 5th man rotation spot. He had a pretty solid spring. He definitely earned it. Hopefully all of his past mistakes are behind him, and they could kind of just move forward as a clubhouse. And if German has a great season, that's only good for the Yankees. I mean, I know I mentioned Jordan Montgomery could be the best number 4 in baseball. Domingo German has the potential to be the best number 5 in baseball. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, no,
he definitely has the potential.
Another guy who's got really good stuff. We saw him pitch really well in 2019. He had a lot of run support for sure. But a guy that can go out and give you 5 strong innings every start is always a quality starter right there. So, that's what I'm looking for from German. I just want to see him go 5 innings every start. 4 runs max, 4 or 5 runs max. Just keep the Yankees in the game and let's roll. That's what you want out of a 5 starter, right? So, and he can provide that.
I agree. And also, before we go over our over-unders and our predictions, I just want to make it clear, too, Luis Severino, let's not forget about him.
Yeah.
He's expected to be back like June, July. I didn't kind of want to give him his own segment today just because, A, we don't know when he's necessarily coming back,
right,
and B, what role he's going to play when he does come back. I mean, I've mentioned it multiple times. I could see it being a possibility. They throw him in the bullpen when he comes back, but don't sleep on Luis Severino. He will be back at some point this season. Yeah. But let's go over some predictions here. First one, Kluber and Taillon, like we mentioned, they haven't pitched since 2019. Are you taking the over or the under on 39.5 starts combined for the two?
I'm going to go with the under, and it's just the safe bet here. One of them is, I don't want to say it, but one of them is likely to get injured at some point. I hope that's not the case. Like I said, I'm very high on Taillon. I think he's got the potential to really solidify himself as the number 2 in this rotation, not just for this year, but going forward.
Sure.
And I'd really like to see him succeed. But, Kluber's an older guy. He's battled some injuries in recent years. And, it's just the safe bet going with the under here.
I
understand.
I'm
trying to be cautiously optimistic, okay?
I get it. No, yeah. I would say the safe bet would be to bet under. But I'm going the over.
You're a dreamer.
Just because,
that's okay.
Yeah, listen, it's weird because sometimes I'm overly pessimistic, but for some reason with Taillon and Kluber going into this year, I'm overly optimistic. I feel like both of them are going to stay very healthy. I think mainly because the Yankees are going to be very cautious with them to begin the year. They're definitely not going to throw too much, so I think they are going to make their starts, but the innings pitched might not be as high as you would expect it to be. So right. I think, they are going to have over 39.5 starts.
That's fair.
Second over, well, not the second over under, but second prediction. Which starter will have the lowest ERA? This is kind of a simple question. I think you're going a different route with it, though. What do you think, Brian?
I'm going to switch it up a little bit, man. I'm going with Taillon. Like I said, big Taillon guy. He's got nasty stuff, and ERA. He doesn't necessarily have to stay healthy. Like if he pitches a few games very well, I win. But I think he's got the stuff to do it, and obviously Cole is the safe bet here.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go a little bit outside the box. And I think Taillon really has that opportunity to do that.
I respect it. I definitely respect it, but I can't bet against Gerrit Cole here.
I understand, man. I understand.
Like, if we want to talk about safe bets, I think Gerrit Cole is the closest thing to a
Listen,
sure thing for this.
listen. If we were putting money on this, I would go Gerrit Cole. But since we're not,
Brian, listen. If Tyone has the lowest ERA, I'll give you a solid high five. A
ooh, I could
quality high
use a
five.
solid high five. Thanks,
Yeah.
man. All right. I'll
Speaking
hold
of
you to
Gerrit
it.
Cole, though, are you taking the over or the under on 284 and a half strikeouts? So
I'm
do you think he's
going.
going to have 285 or lower?
I'm going with the under on this one. Again, just 285 is a lot of strikeouts, man. It's a lot
I know,
of
but in
strikeouts, and he
2019,
could do it.
he had over 300.
It's true. It's very true. But also, I think the Yankees will hold him back a little bit. I think they're going to limit his innings a little bit just because they want to play it safe with all of their starters, especially in the beginning of the season, probably as well towards the end of the season if it's not, if they don't need him as much, if we're like running away with the division or something like that, then I don't think he's going to pitch,
It's fair.
7, 8 innings every start. So I'm just going to go with the under on this one.
It's fair enough. I mean, I'm taking the over. Just because, listen, Brian,
It's
we're
fair.
countering
Fair.
each other every single question.
Yeah.
I'm taking
You
the
hate
over
me.
just because, like I said, I mean, if I'm talking which starter has the lowest ERA, I'm going with Gerrit Cole. I already said I think he's going to have one of the best seasons of his career. So
You are
therefore,
consistent.
he's bound to have over 285 strikeouts. He might
Okay.
even have over 300. Just saying. Just saying. Another question. I know you're a big Monty guy too.
Big Monty guy.
Um, do we think? Let's put the over under at 3.5 for his ERA. Do we think he's gonna have an over a 3.5 or under a 3.5?
I'm hammering the under. I'm going for it. I'm going
Wow.
all in. This is where I'm going to go boldly optimistic. And I think that Monty's going to have a big year. He's going to be in the 4 or 5 role throughout the entire season. So I think that, there's not going to be too much pressure on him. And people might underestimate him a little bit. He's got good stuff.
Would you say under a 3?
No.
No. So somewhere between 3 and 3.5.
Yeah.
For me, I'd probably take the over. But I think he's gonna be a little bit over. If I had to make a bet, I'd say between like 3.6 and like 3.75.
Okay.
I would say
I mean,
that like that's a safe area.
Honestly, if he keeps his ERA below 4, that's pretty solid for
Bro, as a
number
4 starter, yeah.
starter. I'm totally happy with that.
No, yeah, I'd agree. The last kind of prediction that we could make here is whether or not we think Domingo German is gonna still be in the rotation August 1st. So the date on the calendar is August 1st. Is Domingo German still a member of the starting rotation? Or A, has he been moved to the bullpen? Has he been traded? Is he in the minors? What do you think?
I think yes, he's part of the starting rotation. I think that we have a very deep rotation this year. We do expect to see Devi at some point, probably Severino too eventually. But I think that given the injury histories and everything that always happens with the Yankees, I'm just gonna say that it's probably the safe bet to say he'll still be in the rotation in August. And he's been pretty consistent. He hasn't been injured much.
Sure.
So I kind of count on him to stay healthy.
Brian, I think I'm taking the counter
Of
once
course you
again.
are. What a surprise! Is
I'm
anyone
gonna
else
say
surprised?
I'm gonna say no. Only because, like we said, Luis Severino's coming back. And I do think, while I mentioned like the bullpen could be a scenario for him, I definitely think the Yankees are going to throw him into the starting rotation. So therefore, he would I think Domingo German would be the odd man out there. So just because of that, I don't see Domingo German being in the starting rotation by then. And that's just not because of performance, but because of Luis Severino's return. So
Do you
there's
think
that.
Do you think that if Devi lights it up in the minors, do you think that he could take the spot from Domingo?
It's possible if Domingo struggles in the major league. Sure, it's definitely possible. Don't sleep on Devi this season. That's one of the keys. But that is going to wrap things up for us today. I think the bottom line that we could kind of draw from today's preview is that for the first time in a very long time, the Yankees have a very viable starting rotation going into the year. First time in a very long time, I'm looking at this rotation on paper, and I'm very confident, Brian. Very confident.
Not just in the high end starters. We have tons of depth, which is great to see.
Yeah, especially if Chacin comes back as well. He's another guy. Clark Schmidt when he returns from injury. They definitely have options. So we'll just see how it works out this season. Hopefully everyone can stay healthy. That's the key. But like I said, that's going to wrap things up for us tonight. We are going live before and after just about every Yankees game this season. So stay tuned for the YouTube channel for that. Like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you do know when we go live every day. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe.